All right, oops, why did I do that? And share, screen, share, and make it big. Okay, now we should be good to go. I'm unmuted. All right. If you have any issues hearing any of us speaking in through the WebEx, feel free to type that in the chat. We have somebody monitoring the chat and we'll get that addressed. Also, please feel free to ask questions at any time. We do have a time set aside at the end for questions and answers, but if you have any along the way, feel free to stop, feel free to type it in the chat. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. So I'm Dr. Desi Wanders. I'm the interim chair for the Department of Nutrition, and I have been the program director for the undergraduate program since 2016, but I am passing that role on to Professor Jessica White. So she's here today. You'll hear from her. And she, we'll do a soft transition. So if you guys have questions about the program, feel free to contact Jessica first. And if she needs a little help answering the question, she'll reach out to me, but she's going to be an excellent undergraduate program director, I'm sure. So I wanted to have this orientation / open house because every year in the program, I do this program assessment with all the students that are about to graduate. And every year I get this feedback that there are so many good resources available for the students that they didn't know about until too late in the program to really take advantage of. So we're going to get this information out here. We'll record this and post it on the website. So if you need to go back and refresh on anything, it will be available for you there too. So hopefully you get, some good information out of this. And like I said, please feel free to stop and ask questions at any time. So we're going to start just by going over the actual major and the curriculum for the nutrition science and the nutrition and wellness concentrations. We'll tell you a little bit about the health and wellness coaching certificate that we offer. We'll talk a lot about some different opportunities available for you while you're in the program. Some career opportunities after graduation, as well as graduate and professional schools that are available to you after graduation. We'll give you some helpful points of contact, and then we'll have a question and answer. But like I said, I'm fine with this being informal, and please feel free to stop and ask questions at any moment. Okay, so let's start just by talking about the curriculum. So at the undergraduate level, we offer a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition, and students choose one of two concentrations, so either nutrition science or nutrition and wellness. And I have this picture of Jessica up here. She's the undergraduate program director, so that's who you would contact if you have questions related to the program. And up until a few years ago, we just had nutrition science as a major, and the curriculum is pretty rigorous for that. We have the principles of chemistry 1 and 2 and organic chemistry, and that was a barrier for a lot of students who maybe realized they wanted to major in nutrition, but they had already completed their prereqs and they didn't opt to take those courses. So the nutrition and wellness concentration, the first 2 years have a little bit more flexibility with the sciences and math than the nutrition science concentration. So we'll first talk about the nutrition science concentration. We recommend that any students that are considering graduate school or professional programs like medical school or even our own coordinated program to become a dietitian, we recommend students choose the nutrition science concentration because it does have these kind of more rigorous sciences in there. If you major in nutrition with the nutrition science concentration, also you will have all the prereqs for our graduate coordinated program, which many of our graduates end up going into. So you can see the courses in black are common between the two concentrations. The ones in blue are the ones that are unique to each concentration. So because principles of chemistry requires pre-calculus, math 11-13, that's why that is a higher math requirement for the nutrition science concentration. Both concentrations take anatomy and physiology, and then with nutrition science, students are taking principles of chemistry 1 and 2 and organic chemistry. And I think it's important to note that principles of nutrition, Nutrition 2100, should be taken sometime in your first 2 years. So this Principles of Nutrition is a really important foundational nutrition course. You can't take any most of your upper level nutrition courses without having Nutrition 2100. This course is offered every semester, so fall, spring, and summer. In the fall and spring, it's offered in person and online. In the summer, it's offered just online, but highly recommend that you take Principles of Nutrition early on in the program. Another thing is that I encourage you not to delay taking these prerequisite courses. So the courses oftentimes build on each other. So you can't take organic chemistry without taking Chem 2, and you can't take Chem 2 without taking Chem 1. You can't take Chem 1 without having, a math in there. So if you delay because you're like really not looking forward to taking the sciences, that will delay your graduation because you're supposed to complete all of these courses before you start taking your major courses. So you can't just jump in and start taking macronutrients without having completed your science sequences. So this is the recommended breakdown of how you take your, what we consider your prerequisite courses. And then this is what the courses look like once you get into your major courses. So typically your junior and senior year. So again, the courses in black are common between the two concentrations, and the ones in blue are unique. So the ones in blue here are unique to nutrition science. So everybody takes normal nutrition through the life cycle. Everyone's taking macronutrients, which is your protein, fats, and carbs. Everybody takes micronutrients, which is vitamins and minerals. Everyone takes nutrition and disease, nutrition and physical fitness, nutrition assessment, communication and cultural diversity, nutrition intervention, nutrition seminar for seniors, which is a critical thinking through writing course. So that's taken in your last semester, and we get to use everything you've learned over your time in the program to write a big paper on a nutrition related topic of your choice. I think the students tend to like that class. And then in blue are the courses that are unique to nutrition science. So nutrition science students take research methods, advanced medical terminology for healthcare, food science, nutrition and food policy, energy metabolism and obesity, and nutritional genomics. And you may think, well, I want to major in nutrition and wellness, but I'm really interested in this energy metabolism and obesity course because it is a great course. I teach that one. I really want to take that course. The good news is you have to take 15 credit hours of electives, typically 5 3-credit hour courses. Any of these courses in blue can count as an elective for the opposite concentration. So if you're in nutrition and wellness and you want to take the nutritional genomics course, you can do that and it would count as one of your electives. So if you noticed, in every semester we built in at least 1 or 2 elective courses, and we offer electives. Like I said, any course that's required for the other concentration would count as an elective. We also offer other electives, things like functional foods or entrepreneurial nutrition, things that we think you guys would be interested in. So you can take those courses there. The other thing is you can take elective courses that are offered outside of the Department of Nutrition. So we have some that are already pre-approved, but also let's say you're interested in becoming, I don't know, do nutritional counseling, and you found this counseling course that you think would really help you in that. You just basically have to ask the undergraduate program director if they would let that course count as an elective, and then you can use it in there. Or if you know you want to go to medical school and they require some biochemistry course that is not part of our curriculum, just if it's not pre-approved, ask the undergraduate program director and we could make that, count as an elective. The only requirement is that the electives are supposed to be 3,000 or 4,000 level courses, but we can also make exceptions in that case. So for example, like physical therapy school, they require physics, which is a 2,000 level course. We could let that count as an elective. So there's flexibility there with the electives. Okay, so let's switch and talk about the nutrition and wellness concentration. So when we added this concentration, we kind of aligned it with the pre-health professions major in general. So these are all the same courses that like the nursing students would take, or respiratory therapy and so forth. So you can see there's a little bit more flexibility with which science is taken. So rather than requiring Principles of Chemistry, Survey of Chemistry would work, or Intro to Biology. So there's some flexibility there. But again, all students are going to take the Human Anatomy and Physiology courses. And then instead of organic, instead of organic chemistry, students in nutrition and wellness take microbiology. This course used to be called Microbiology for Public Health, but they switched the course number and the course name, but it's essentially the same course. And then again, it's important to make sure that Principles of Nutrition is taken at some point in your first 2 years in school. And then getting into the major courses, again, the courses in black are common to both concentrations, but the nutrition and wellness concentration is a little bit more interdisciplinary. So students take, for example, health in the older adult, which is actually taught out of the Gerontology Institute, and health communication, which is taught out of the Department of Communication. They also take global public health nutrition issues, culinary medicine and wellness. You're a GTA for that course, right? Or no, course assistant. Yeah. This course, actually, culinary medicine and wellness, is open to all students at Georgia State. So it's one of our upper level nutrition courses that you don't have to be in the major to take. You can take it at any time. And it's a super fun course created by Jessica Todd, one of our faculty members. And you basically learn about a disease or condition and how to modify recipes to help, maybe lower sodium or lower saturated fat intake, and you cook and eat, and it's a fun course. And then students in nutrition and wellness also take communicating nutrition science to the public. It used to be called nutrition in the media. And they also take integrative and functional nutrition. So again, if you're in the nutrition science concentration, and you're like, well, I want to take that culinary medicine and wellness course, that course would count as one of your electives. So when we do advisement, we do this general advisement, but if at any point you're wondering, am I on track for graduation? How many more electives do I need? Will this count as an elective? That's where you just email Jessica, and she'll be able to make sure that you're on track and things like that. So we do have an application process to be technically in the major. I know anybody can come to Georgia State and declare nutrition as their major, but in order to start taking all of those 3,000 and 4,000 level nutrition classes, you have to be accepted into the major. So there is this application process, which happens, when you're basically finished up taking these prerequisite courses. So when you're in your final semester wrapping up your prereqs and you're like, oh, I have no other courses to take, that's when you would submit your application. And we technically have one application deadline, which is May 1st, and we technically have a fall start to the program. So students follow this outlined process. However, there's always a handful of students that are going to complete their prereqs at the end of December, and they're like, what am I going to do for the spring? Just have no more courses to take. That's when you would email Jessica and say, I'm finishing up my prereqs now, what do I do? And she will say, okay, well, we can get you started in spring, and you just kind of are on a slightly different trajectory than the rest of the students. But we never want somebody to just sit out for a whole semester. Additionally, you may say, I've gotten all my prereqs done except I'm missing this one course, and I have no other courses to take. And then you would email Jessica and say, please, I only have one course left. And Jessica will work with you. So we are flexible. We don't want to delay people's graduation. We know how expensive it is to be in school. So when in doubt, just email Jessica, and she should be able to work with you, hopefully. If you haven't completed any science sequences or something, then you're on your own. Then you really need to go back and complete those prereqs. So the application deadline is May 1st. So that means, in that spring semester when you're finishing up your prereqs, you would get your application in, and we'll look and see that, okay, you are on track to complete the prereqs. And to date, we have accepted everybody who has met the criteria. So it's not a competitive application process. It is just dependent on, basically we have it in place so that way we know you've completed your prereqs, you have a minimum overall GPA of 2.5, a minimum science GPA of 2.5, and then you've gotten C's or better in your prerequisite courses. and then you'll be accepted to the program. So as long as you meet the minimum criteria, you should be fine. You will be getting emails about how to submit your application. If you haven't gotten those already, they're submitted online. And basically the reason we do this is we have restrictions set on almost all of the 3,000 and 4,000 level nutrition courses, so random people don't register for them. So you may think to yourself, oh, well, registration for fall starts in March, but my application's not due till May. You don't have to worry about that. We reserve spots in the nutrition courses for the nutrition students. So we'll go through your application. Once we deem that you have met the criteria, we'll authorize you to register for your courses. So you don't need to worry about getting a spot in the nutrition courses. Again, feel free to stop me if you have questions, but Nicole, yeah.
We choose our concentration after prerequisites.
So you would choose your concentration before the prerequisite. And that way you know which sciences to take. So the question was, do we choose our concentration before the prerequisites or after the prerequisites? I would start at the beginning. That way you're advised appropriately. But say you know you want to go to the coordinated program to become a registered dietitian, but you really like the courses in the nutrition and wellness concentration. You can do that. You just have to take the higher sciences as your prereqs. Again, if you have questions specifically related to which concentration you're choosing, feel free to email Jessica and she can talk you through that. But yeah, I would declare your concentration at the very beginning. The other thing is, well, if you have questions about advising, even if you are working with an advisor at the university level, don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's all. Okay. So at this point, I want to bring up Jessica White to talk a little bit about the health and wellness coaching certificate option that we have for our students. So I know she'll explain this a little bit, but Jessica actually became a health and wellness coach in order to be able to offer this to our students. So we had originally wanted to come up with some certificate that we could offer our students to give them a little bit of a feather in their cap, and we planned to go a different route, and then Jessica had looked and saw that there was such demand for health coaches out there that she actually went through the process, became a health coach, and now this is something that we offer our students. So Jessica's also the new undergraduate program director, so now you get to meet her.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Hopefully I'm on camera. All right, so I am Jessica White, like Dr. Wanders said, and I am the director of the undergraduate program, and the director of the health and wellness coaching certificate program. So this is a certificate program, and this is actually a fairly new certificate program. We actually just graduated our second cohort, so we are still kind of in our infancy, but we're trucking along very well and successfully graduating everybody. And so this certificate program is really a program that will integrate a lot of nutrition and health knowledge and combine that with counseling so that you're able to sort of move into the field as a health coach and start working in sort of a coaching, counseling sort of role. And so it's housed within our department. So you will be taking lots of nutrition courses with health coaching. And so you'll leave here with the tools with strong nutrition background and health background with that coaching background as well. And so we are a nationally board certified health and wellness program. So what does that mean? You see the little NBHWC approved training program there in the corner. And so that symbol is the organization that actually was created to sort of start to bring all of health coaches together under one umbrella. Right now, it is still sort of disjointed. There's multiple organizations out there, but the NBHWC actually partnered with the National Medical Examiners, board examiners, to create a specific board exam. So this is the same National Board of Medical Examiners that creates the board exams for residents and physicians and all of them. So they came together after they saw a need for health coaches and created a board exam for health coaches. And so In order to sit for this board exam, the first thing you have to do is actually pass an approved training program. And Georgia State is one of many. And so you don't have to go outside of Georgia State to pass an approved program. So that's really good. And that's sort of why we brought this to you, so that at graduation, you would be able to sit for the board exam, become credentialed, and sort of move into this career as a health coach. And so once you have passed, you'll be eligible to sit, but how do we get you there? So I have little notes to keep me on track so I don't ramble too much. And so as you can see on the screen, we have 3 required courses that you have to pass in order to complete the certificate program. So nutrition and disease, which is part of the curriculum for both nutrition wellness and nutrition science. So you take that within the program. And that's taken in the spring of your junior year. And yes, the spring of your junior year. And then after you pass that course with a B or better, you then are able to take Health Coaching 1 and Health Coaching 2. So both of these are really where we hone in on all of the concepts that you essentially need to pass the board exam. And so these are elective courses, and you would choose to take this in the fall of your senior year and then spring of your senior year. And so once you've passed all of that and graduated from the program, you will be able to sit for the board exam. So we also have health coaching hours that we have set aside for you to be able to complete within the program. And there's some details that I won't get into now regarding when you can start those hours and things like that, but we set aside time, and I'm working out some of the kinks, as Blake will know, to make sure that you guys have the time to complete those hours. You need 50 hours before you're allowed to sit for the board exam. And so we try to make sure you have most, if not all of those within the program, so you are ready to sit for your board exam once you graduate. And so once you have all of that and you sit for your board exam and you're ready to go and you're board certified, you are actually able to work in many different areas. And the field is growing very rapidly right now. And so the not to ramble, where are my notes? Okay, there we go. Yes. So this field, you can really work in a few different areas, and we have a lot of our graduates, mostly from the first cohort, because I literally just graduated my second cohort in May, are working in different fields like doctor's offices, corporate wellness. Some are opening up their own private practice. A lot of health coaches go into private practice, but you don't have to. Some are working for wellness or weight loss companies. Think about things like Noom, things like that. And then you can also just sort of, I have some in research as well, where interviewing and discussing things with patients is really a larger part of their job. And so being a health coach really kind of drives a lot of their day-to-day activity. And so you have lots of different options. And the field is really growing. So currently we actually, the national board just met with the American Medical Association, and we were actually just granted CPT3 codes, which is really good, which means we are on the path to actually be able to drop charges with insurance. We are not there yet. CPT3 codes only allows us to track data from a like Medicare, Medicaid standpoint, and then hopefully in the next few years we will be able to move to CPT1 codes where we would be able to bill insurance. So we are on the path. That actually just happened a couple of years ago, so we are moving very quickly. Kind of, if you think about it, in 2016 was when the board exam was created. So just 7 years later, we are already starting the process to be able to bill for insurance. So it is a rapidly growing field. And so if you have any questions at all regarding this, or if you're just a little bit interested and want to have a conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Yeah, I think one of the important points to highlight is this health coaching program will not add any time or financial burden while you're in the program. You have to pay to take the board exam after you graduate, but because these courses count as electives, it's not taking any extra courses. It's just another little option that we have available for our students. Okay. So we're going to switch gears now and talk about some opportunities available for you as students in the program. This is the one thing that people, the students noted when I do these exit surveys, that, oh man, you know, I didn't learn about the Nutrition Student Network until I was already a senior. I didn't know you could do undergraduate research. And so I'm hoping that you guys get something out of this at this point, because now is really the time to start getting involved. So you want to strengthen your resume or your CV, you want to strengthen your application to grad school or professional schools or jobs, and by getting involved in research and these student organizations and volunteering and leadership, that's really how you set yourself apart from other people. So I want to start by talking about the Nutrition Student Network, and I want to do that by bringing up the outgoing president of the Nutrition Student Network, which is the officially chartered student organization for the Department of Nutrition. I think they're called registered student organizations now. But Blakely Stone, Blakely was the president and served many other roles in the NSN before becoming president. So I'll ask Blakely to come and tell you a little bit about the NSN. Yes, so I was the previous president of NSN. And overall, it's an officially chartered, as she mentioned, student-run organization, and it provides a forum for nutrition students to discuss nutrition, interact with other nutrition professionals, do community service and volunteer-related projects. And overall, we promote visibility of nutrition on campus, and we do meetings regarding going into a path in nutrition for your career. So members can enjoy NSN by engaging in various community service projects, volunteer projects, and we overall just like to network with various dietetic professionals and promote nutrition on campus. So the ways we are involved on campus is we have 8 meetings in total a year, with 4 each semester. We have mostly the meetings that I'm discussing with those 8 meetings are online. I'm not sure what they're going to go this year, but we normally have a little speaker come in and they're a nutrition professional, and we get to ask them questions. They talk about their path to whatever career they chose and then what they do in their career, and it's really insightful. But we also have in-person meetings where we kind of get together and we discuss various things, and we do various things. And something that we did this year was a Panther Pantry drive, where we had the people of NSN, the members, donate products that are non-perishable to the Panthers Pantry on campus. The Panthers Pantry is a food pantry for students and faculty that are at Georgia State University for short-term assistance with food. And we also have volunteer projects. We also have leadership opportunities, and it's just a bunch of fun. So I'm specific to talk about various volunteer opportunities we have through NSN. Something I would definitely like to note is that we have a spreadsheet for these opportunities that helps compile them. You can see what we've done in the past, you can see what's upcoming, and you can just find various opportunities at any time, so it's exciting. But we also have a garden. We have a garden on top of the Center Park Stadium, where we have a specific role of an officer that goes up there and helps coordinate volunteer groups. And I like to weed and do a lot of garden maintenance. I was the gardener for 2 years prior, so it was really it's a lot of fun, because you get to actually see like the full cycle of getting the produce and then donating it to the Panthers Pantry, and then you can actually volunteer at the Panthers Pantry and help them with organization and various stuff through the Panthers Pantry. You also can volunteer at the Grady's Fresh Food Market, Jessie Hill Market. That's pretty much like a food pharmacy where Grady gives out fresh produce to their patients. We have had people volunteer at the St. Francis Soup Kitchen, Eden, which is a eating disorder clinic.
the Atlanta Community Food Bank, and choices and more, such as the Grocery Spot, which we recently had people volunteer at, which is a mutual aid grocery store. And something interesting is if you do 100 hours of volunteer work, not just specifically through our volunteer opportunities, but just in general, we like to emphasize our volunteer opportunities, of course, but you can get an NSN cord, or graduation cord at graduation. It's a little green cord, and yeah. But something I like to emphasize is that we have a lot of leadership opportunities through NSN. We have president, vice president, secretary, volunteer coordinator, treasurer, garden manager, and social media coordinator. President is pretty much being the face of the organization. Vice president helps the president, and volunteer coordinators also often coordinate all the volunteer opportunities that we have. Treasurer deals with the budget. Garden manager does stuff for the garden, and social media coordinator does social media. We always need people to apply at April. April is election time every year, and we always have to ask people to volunteer and be an officer, but it's extremely rewarding, and you learn so much every time, and I feel like everyone needs to be a volunteer or needs to do some sort of role in our leadership because we get to network directly with these professionals. So also, we have a budget, and we set aside money specifically for student travel. You can apply through NSN to get reimbursed for travel to conferences. You can present your research, and we can help you, travel to those research conferences. There's also networking at those conferences, and we also can possibly help reimburse you for nutrition related learning opportunities, such as like a workshop or anything related to those conferences. I recommend doing that. I wasn't able to do them, but I think everyone I know that has done them loves them. And we do provide a little bit of monetary assistance for those who do it. So how to join? You go on the Panther Involvement Network. It compiles all of the different clubs on campus, and you just search Nutrition Student Network, and I can help you afterwards also if you need help. But once you get to the page, you'll be prompted to either join or contact, and if it just says contact, that means you're already in there. But if you join, you are able to receive notifications of events and also communications such as emails. But once you join, it'll say membership pending, and we should accept you pretty fast. They accept like within the same day. And then after you actually, apply, it should just say contact, and therefore you can contact the president at any time through that little button. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and if you use that little QR code, you can go on our GroupMe, and that's where we kind of keep everything up to date and talk to you guys directly. So yes.
Thank you, Blakely. Yeah, and I just also want to mention that there are no membership dues to join, and you don't even have to be a nutrition major to join the Nutrition Student Network. So if you have an interest in nutrition and want to get involved, just go on Panther Involvement Network and request to join, and then you'll start getting the communication. So I want to echo what Blakely said, that every year we have usually some people who step up to serve in those leadership roles. I'm the faculty advisor to the Nutrition Student Network, so it's a fully student-run organization. They decide how to spend the budget, and I'm just there to provide oversight. But yeah, every year I have to do a little bit of, hey, what do you think? You may want to consider running for one of these officer positions. So I encourage you to just get involved now. Start by attending the meetings. They want your involvement. So don't be intimidated or scared or, think, well, I don't know anybody in nutrition yet. It's a very welcoming group. So yeah, just start getting involved. You can even have input on, what guest speakers to invite. So say you have, a big interest in the food and beverage industry and you would love to hear someone speak on that, make your voice heard, and we can reach out and try to invite someone to, talk in a certain area. The GroupMe, I see the question there. I don't know if you can scan it from your computer. I have, well, let's see, let's go to the next slide. It might be, oh, it's right here. So, This is the group me. So I'll also make this recording available on the website at some point after this. I have to get the IT folks to help me with that, but so you'll be able to access this information later. So I thought it would be a good segue to just kind of touch on a little bit more of the volunteer opportunities. So obviously going through the Nutrition Student Network is a great place to start because, as Blakely noted, one of the officer positions is volunteer coordinator. So it's their role to kind of make these volunteer opportunities available to you. They'll send them out from time to time. If I get a request, like I'll get requests from the Botanical Gardens or CHOA, I'll send those out, but the NSN sends out more opportunities than I do. But I have pulled up these links here. So Blakely mentioned this Excel file that was created. So she created it. It's actually something that I had wanted to have created for many years, but nobody had the time to do it. So luckily Blakely set this up, and the next volunteer coordinator who's in place now, but really they don't start really doing much until fall semester, will be able to keep this up to date. But this is a Google Doc that you can go to that has the different volunteer opportunities there with a link, with the dates and things like that, that will be kept up to date. So there's volunteer, internships, part-time jobs, and things like that. So this is a good way to go if you think you want to volunteer but don't know where to start. Start by joining NSN, getting access to these opportunities. The other thing is that Georgia State has its own volunteering effort, and that's through givepulse.com. It's Pause for a Cause. So you can, if you just Google GSU Give Pulse or GSU Pause for a Cause, you'll find it. But this is a great way to find other volunteer events that may be separate from what the NSN is providing, and they have the dates here. If you are interested in these, you just click on, the individual links that you're interested in, and it'll tell you more information about the volunteer opportunity and how to get involved. But as you can see, some of them, fill up pretty quickly. So it will tell you how many slots they have left. So again, volunteering is a great way to kind of strengthen your resume or applications for jobs and graduate programs. Okay. Another thing I'd like to bring to your attention is, because I've heard this before from many students, and I know it to be the case, that students think, well, I would love to volunteer, but I have to work. I have bills to pay. I can't afford to spend my time volunteering. Luckily, we now have this really great resource that just started. It's the Barb Hopkins and Kathy McCarroll Endowed Fund to help support student volunteers. And this fund is actually will pay students for volunteering. So this is able to help those students that maybe would like to volunteer but need the income. But it's not just any volunteering. It has to be a meaningful, sustained volunteer commitment that either you have identified on your own, or you could work with us to find something. In fact, we have an opportunity available right now for a student who's interested in volunteering with the Grady Food as Medicine program that will have, an actual really meaningful volunteer experience. And the criteria is that the student commit at least 100 hours and up to 200 volunteer hours over a certain period of time. It doesn't have to be 100 hours over the summer. It can be over multiple semesters. And the student will be reimbursed $15 an hour for every volunteer hour that they commit. And it will be given as like a typical scholarship would. So the $15 an hour would be put directly into your student account, not like a $15 an hour job. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. My contact information will be at the end of the slide, and we can work with you on applying for that opportunity. Another opportunity for our undergraduate students is the Lewis College Ambassador Program. We send out a call for applications for this every year, and these ambassador roles are really good for students that maybe are not afraid to mingle and interact and maybe have a little bit more of an outgoing personality, because these ambassadors help us with our important events like graduation and the Haverty Lecture and Honors Day. And they may do things like serve as an usher and guide people to their seats or hand out programs for these different events. Or maybe you'll be responsible for bringing an invited speaker from, one meeting to the next. And you do things like that. And in exchange, you get, obviously to put on your CV that you're an ambassador for the Lewis College, but you also get a $500 professional development stipend that you can use towards conference attendance or travel or research supplies, educational materials, and things like that. So look for that email to come out. And then a lot of our undergraduate students get involved with research and end up having, let's see if I can minimize this. Some good experiences with that. We have one of our undergraduate researchers in here right now and likely spent some time doing research as well. But I'm going to ask Dr. Rafaela Farrison to come up and tell you a little bit more about undergraduate research. I've asked Dr. Farrison to speak on this because she's mentored a lot of students in undergraduate research, and they generally all have very good outcomes as a response to this undergraduate research. She's mentor the most students ever in the department with regards to honors theses too. So she'll talk a little bit about that. So Dr. Farrison, if you come up.
Thank you, Dr. Wonders. Good morning, everyone. So I'll go over quickly about the research in our department. So there's opportunity for you to get involved with basic, clinical, and community research. So when we talk about basic research, we're really talking about bench research. So spending time at the lab, working with cell culture, working with animals, and in our lab, the researchers that work with animals are mainly working with mice and rats. And we also, when it comes to cell culture, we have different cell lines that we work with, but we work with immune cells, cells of the cardiovascular system, adipocytes, right, which are cells of adipose tissue and liver cells and different types, lung cells and different. So there's opportunity to get involved, depending on your research, on the faculty researcher's interest, but also if you have a particular interest, if the faculty has some experience in that area, they can tailor something for you. Clinical research, there's not a lot. We're starting some now, like we have some nutrition intervention studies starting in my lab right now, specifically 3 studies where we are just giving participants a certain intervention for a certain amount of time, 8, 12 weeks, and then we'll measure different outcomes. So cardiovascular outcomes, cognitive function, gut microbiota. But there's also some faculty that does secondary analysis type of research. So a lot of like data analysis. So going into a database and also, retrieving all the data and making sense of it with a certain outcome. Also community research, so we have a couple faculty, so doing public health and community nutrition research. So you have the chance you're going to be working with people also, but it's in a different scenario. So there's opportunities for whatever you're interested in. And we also have on campus, I don't know if you're familiar, and we should have put in here, the hydroponic farm. So the hydroponic farm, it's in a shipping container, and Olivia Setka, she started running as an undergraduate student. During the time she joined my lab and she did an honors thesis, and then she became a CP student, and she continued to run the hydroponic farm where they can actually grow a lot of produce, and actually they supplied Panthers dining with their produce, some herbs. So there is opportunity now. We have a couple undergraduate students volunteering there from nutrition and also geosciences. Sunshine is just our next, was just selected as the next volunteer for the next year. And Davis will be replacing Olivia as she graduates this summer. So there's opportunity to volunteer there, but also to get some paid positions there as well, which it's been fun, the students enjoy, and we can also do a research component, to it. One of the things with the hydroponic farm, is that, you know, plants, we know they're going to have the nutrient composition and also the phytonutrient composition is dependent on exposure to light, exposure to environmental stress, right? So pathogens, alkalinity, acidity, content of drought or flood, you know, all types of things. And that is going to determine, you know, the type of phytonutrients. And we've noticed through our analysis that actually we started with kale, and we noticed that kale that are grown in the hydroponic farm actually have less carbohydrate, has a little less of also of those phytochemicals. So the good thing is that it can actually manipulate the nutrient content of the soil and the conditions that you grow those plants in. So that's going to be something that we're going to be doing next to see what we get. And then hopefully we can actually test that in the lab through cell culture studies, but also rodents and then finally humans. So just to, you know, give an example of opportunities that we have. So getting involved with research is a great opportunity to develop not only technical but soft skills. When we talk about technical, of course, it would involve laboratory techniques, right? If you're working in the lab, so you would learn how to do cell culture, you would learn how to work with the animals. There's some training that needs to be done prior to actually, you know, starting to do the research. But some people ask, should we have any type of experience, right? If you're trying to do, to do research and join a lab. Not necessarily. So hard skills, they are actually easier to teach than the soft skills that I'll talk about next. But, you know, that's something that if you have some of the soft skills like commitment, if you're driven, motivated, you should be able to learn everything and do it. It's a huge time commitment depending on type of, you know, research project you're getting involved in, but as students that really are want to do this, they have found the time and have done an excellent job. So also, you're going to learn how to do a literature search, right? So you're going to increase your knowledge on that particular field that you're going to be studying. Also, we're going to teach you how to do data analysis, basic data analysis, right? How to put graphs together, how to present your data, how to interpret the data that you are generating, but also how to interpret the data that you're reading from the literature, right? And writing, of course, is really important through this process, especially if you're going to do an honors thesis, which I'll talk about next. Soft skills, of course, like, you know, in an ideal world, this is all we would want a person to come with, but we know we all, you know, have strengths and weaknesses, and some of this come easy to some of us, and some of this we need to work on. But, you know, effective communication is key. Not only communication when it comes to the ability to talk about what you're doing, your project, and write about it, but also communication between your mentor and you, and also with the team members, because in this environment, you're going to really need to work in a collaborate. I can never say that word. You're going to have to collaborate. So you're going to have to do a lot of teamwork. So communication is the key. Also, you know, like I said, motivation, persistence, because a lot of times, especially if you're doing lab research, you're not going to get the results that you want. The experiments are going to go wrong, and you have to repeat, and you have to do it all over again. They're time consuming, but, you know, and sometimes you get, you know, just discouraged, but you just have to persist. Problem solving, time management skills, of course, organization, attention to detail, those things are very important in the lab, because and with research, regardless, not just in the lab, because once you're doing that, you need to take really thorough notes, because anybody should be able to read your notes and understand what you did and be able to go back to that experiment, follow, you know, exactly what you did. And if something went wrong, if you wrote down every single step, you can go back and say, oh, let me double check my calculations, let me double check everything and see where it went wrong. And if something worked really well, if you didn't take notes, then you cannot repeat it, right? So it's very important. And let's see, also flexibility, dependability. We have to know that we can count on you, you know, all the team members. Sometimes it's hard to predict when you're going to have to be here. It really depends on what's going on. Some weeks may be really busy. Some weeks you may not have to come, you know, to the research lab at all, or or to show up. So really, be flexible, dependable, and also conflict resolution is something is important because you're going to have, again, to work with people and be able to, resolve things as they come. And leadership skills, it's an opportunity to also take the lead in some of the projects, especially your own, and develop those skills. Let's see. How do we move this?
Oh, can you click on the screen? I had to click away. That's probably what I should do.
Okay, so when we talk about undergraduate research rate, and we talk about a lot of time commitment and, but there is some rewards and some tangible deliverables, outcomes that I, wrote it in there. So one of the things is that you get the opportunity to do oral and poster presentations at local, regional, and national conferences. So an example of a local conference would be GSU Undergraduate Research Conference. We also have the North of Georgia one, which a student has participated. Normally that one occurs in the fall and includes all the universities in the USG system. And it's normally within an hour or 2 hours from here. And then you have the GSU only that occurs in the spring, normally April. So you also have the opportunity to go to national conferences like Blakely we're talking about. She had some conferences there. So right now we have the American Society of Nutrition that's happening in the summer in July. So Wesley and Candle that just graduated, both are coming and they're going to be presenting a poster there as well. So, and we provide support, through the Honors College, and if the department can, we also went through the NSN. So, and CASA is another good resource for you guys when it comes to those things as well. Also publications, depending on the contribution, right? If your work, it's not branching from something else, it's just something that can stand alone, you get the opportunity to be first author on a publication. Of course, it's not just doing the work, but that goes into also writing the paper and helping design the study. It's to be an author on a publication, it goes a little more than just doing the work, especially if you're getting paid. And then honors thesis. So that is an opportunity that I'll talk about next. It can be, you don't need to be an honors college student to do an honors thesis. So some students just want to get research experience. And we had students do that in the past. They were amazing. They had just one semester, but they were there all the time. They're committed. They really wanted to get the most out of experience, and they wanted to go to medical school afterwards. So they actually used the time very wisely, and actually both students got accepted. But then we had students that wanted to start it as, let's see how this goes. I'll just, work on this project that you have. But then, they were just like, oh, I think I want to do a thesis. So we sit down, we develop, together the topic of the thesis, and then they collect the data, do the writing, and then have the product at the end, which they will defend in a presentation to the public, whoever wants to attend. So how to get involved with research? So I would say familiarize yourself with the faculty and their research. And how do we do that? So go to the website, and there is faculty directory. So just click on the name of the faculty, and there is a little profile. Some faculty have lab websites, so go into their websites and check out a little more than of what they can do. Specifically on my website, I have a research team page where you can actually see all the students and a lot of their accomplishments. So, because once you get involved, there's so many opportunities to get scholarships, to get, recognition for the research work that you're doing that are going to help build up your resume, especially, if you want to go to graduate school, medical school afterwards, or even apply to a master's or a PhD program, like Dr. Wonder said, that will set you apart, because everybody else, you have to think that everybody else is doing what you are doing. So the thought should be, how do I set myself apart? How do I make myself distinguished from everybody else and be more marketable, right? So those are some of the things that you can do. Also, want to reach out to the faculty. I know sometimes we tend to just have a generic email because we want to send to a ton of faculty at once. And that's when the likelihood that you're going to be selected for something decreases dramatically. So make sure that you really personalize each of the emails that you're going to send, address the faculty appropriately, talk about how you learned about their research, and be specific about what their research is and why you're interested in that. Or if you're not interested in specifically what they're doing, but something that's related, just tell them what you're doing. And then you can ask them if they have any available positions in their lab and volunteer and paid. And sometimes, like, I know we all want to get paid, especially if we're going to spend time. But sometimes if you start as volunteer, right, that can grow into a paid position, especially if you do a great job. And sometimes the faculty may not have a paid position, but somebody may be graduating the next semester or two, and then you can take over the following semester or year. So I would also, when you're emailing the faculty, make sure you attach your resume, highlight your skills and any of the experiences that you have. Class schedule is important because a lot of times, we would love to have you, but if the time doesn't work where we need help, some faculty may need help mostly in the morning. For example, I'm going to have the clinical studies participants need to be fasting. So if somebody has availability, if they're brilliant but only have availability in the afternoon, that's not going to work. So it's important if you have I tell students, take a picture of that table for your schedule that shows up. And if you have any other commitments outside coursework, write on the email as well. So they know, and then, you're going to be a step ahead in the process. So I started talking about the honors thesis. So if you're doing research, right, and you decide what happened?
It's this computer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you start working with the faculty and decide that you want to actually do research, so we can work on that. So those are just examples of a few studies that I have done in honors thesis during their time here. So honors thesis, you can do it without an association in terms of being a member or a student with the honor accepted in the honors college, can still do it through our department. However, that's something I always talk about. If you meet the criteria for the honors college, you can always apply to it, even at your senior year, the beginning of it. Normally the application is in the spring, like April or May. So you submit an application if you have a GPA that's greater than 3.5 and you need a professor to recommend you. So if you're already talking to a professor about joining their lab, just have them just ask them if they can write you a recommendation letter, which doesn't need to be anything, long or anything like that, but just something that, can explain that how the relationship they have with you and some of the skills that you have and, that you're going to be able to do that. So you can apply. And what are the advantages of applying to the honors college and doing the honors thesis associated with that? Well, you can get paid. So we have a program that's called the University Assistantship Program through the Honors College. And this means that you can work up to 8 hours per week. You could work more, but depends on budget. For us, it's particularly 8 hours a week, and you can earn up to $2,500 in an academic year. Some students end up working more than 8 hours, especially if they're doing the research project, but they're also taking a course that's nutrition project or honors thesis, so account for the extra work that they are doing, okay? And then, like I said, it's not as flexible when it comes to this. If you are part of the honors college, they do ask that you present at the undergraduate research conference in April, or that you submit to Discovery. Okay, so, and they also provide research support. So it's a $500 normally. And so far, all my students have gotten that. So you just apply. Normally, if they have the funds, you're going to get it. And sometimes you can apply for travel to use that money to travel to a conference, but you could also use their money for research supplies. If you perhaps, your professor doesn't have a lot of funding, or your research is completely different than what they're doing and you need something that they don't have it. So you could do it that way. And I guess you buy it and get, you get the money into your student account, but you would have. So those are things that find out later, but those are the opportunities and it's extremely rewarding for the students that do. It's hard. Some of them struggle a little bit, but they also, at the end, they are thankful that they chose that route and all that they learn, all the skills they were able to develop, and work on during the process.
Thank you, Dr. Claire. That was a great kind of overview of undergraduate research. I'll just elaborate on one little point that Dr. Ferguson said. It was really important when you're emailing a faculty member, a professor, to say that you're interested in their research, you want to get involved. Providing your availability is important, but I also think it's important that you go in with the expectation that you're going to have a sustained commitment to that program. So obviously, if you get involved and you realize research is really not for you, nobody's going to force you to stay involved in that research, but you have to think about it's a really big, often financial, but especially time commitment on the part of the faculty member in their lab to get a student trained and independent. And if you know that you're not going to, be able to commit 8 hours per week for, multiple semesters or whatever, you may want to reconsider, because normally we want to make sure that when we get a student involved in research, it's something that they probably are going to want to continue. So that way it's mutually beneficial for the student and also for the faculty member and their time. Was there something else? Honors? Yeah. You did a nice job. Oh, that's what it was. You mentioned getting course credit, and that's something I didn't put in here, but we have a course called Nutrition Project. It's Nutrition NUTR 4999. And that's not a course that a faculty member is teaching and you come to class. It's not like that, but it's a way that we can give students course credit for being involved in something like undergraduate research, or if you've had another project. Sunshine, you did that with PPN, didn't you? So yeah, so Sunshine had a kind of like an internship with a meal prep company, and they do nutrition analysis and things like that as well. And she was able to get course credit for her work there. But oftentimes, if you want to get involved with undergraduate research, even if it's not paid opportunity, you could get course credit that would count as one of your electives. We talked about you needing 5 elective courses or 15 credit hours of electives. So Nutrition Project, you can register from 1 to 6 credit hours for that. So if you took 6 credit hours, that would replace 2 elective courses. But you would be expected to contribute about 16 hours per week towards research if you registered for 6 credit hours, because every 3 credit hour class is about 8 to 9 hours per week of work. So that's another opportunity. Another opportunity for our students, and this is just something that we've started doing this past year to recognize students, is this Student of the Month. And this is really nothing you can apply for. It's honestly the faculty members notice the students who are going above and beyond, maybe in their coursework or in their research or in their leadership roles or in their volunteering. And we nominate a student, an undergraduate student, a graduate student, and an alumni actually to be the Student of the Month. And we interview that student and they get profiled on our website and on our social media pages. So that's something you could also, if you're selected for that, put on your resume or CV and have your little link to the Student of the Month profile on there as well. So we also have scholarships available for undergraduate students. Is it? Oh, question? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You mentioned your website and social media platforms. What exactly are they so that we can kind of stay connected?
Okay, so I should have put them on here, but so it's, if you just Google, or not Google, but on Facebook, it's the GSU Department of Nutrition. And it's the same thing on Instagram. And Blakely put up there the Nutrition Student Network ones that you can search for, but they're here. And at NSN GSU for Facebook and Instagram for the Nutrition Student Network. Okay. We also have scholarships available for our students. So the university has moved to a new platform for applying for scholarships. It's this gsu.academicworks.com is where you would go to apply for scholarships. And I find it, I know this is going to be recorded and put out there, but I find it not to be particularly user-friendly. You can't go in there and search for a scholarship. For example, we have a nutrition and dietetics scholarship. We have the Letty Pate Whitehead scholarship. But what you do is there's a university general scholarship application form that you complete. And then there's also one specific to the Lewis College. And you want to go in there basically at the start of the fall semester and again at the start of the spring semester to make sure that your applications are up to date. And if you complete the university scholarship application and the Lewis College scholarship application, you'll be automatically matched to every scholarship that you're eligible for. So your application will automatically be submitted. So when we review applications for the nutrition and dietetics scholarship, it wasn't students that specifically applied for that scholarship. It's students that had their Lewis College application updated, their Georgia State College application updated, and they automatically matched to that. So there may be many, many other scholarships that you're eligible for that I'm not aware of, but as far as the department and the college goes, we have a nutrition and dietetics scholarship that's just for undergraduate nutrition majors. It is not based on financial need. It's based on, it's a meritorious application. So we review the applications. You write a little, a little essay on, what this scholarship would do for you and so forth. And those applications are due at the end of fall. So you will get an email from probably Jessica telling you, make sure you have your applications updated for the scholarship, and then you'll be notified if you were selected for the scholarship. And then we also have the Letty Pate Whitehead Scholarship, which is for people majoring in allied health professions, including nutrition. If you look at the scholarship description, it says it's for female students. However, I just learned yesterday that in order to not be discriminatory, people identifying as anything other than female can also apply. They would just be awarded from a separate pool of funds because of the nature of the scholarship is set aside for female students, but anybody can actually apply for it. And I highly encourage you to keep your scholarship applications up to date because we've had students that have gotten significant funding through, especially the Letty Pate Whitehead scholarship program.
And one thing about those applications that we notice, take time to actually answer the questions really well. And you're gonna need somebody an option to have somebody write you a letter of recommendation. I would say that strengthens your application, but also spend the time to actually answer the questions, elaborate on them, because some students did not do that, and if they done that, they probably would have gotten a scholarship, especially that we knew how strong the students were, but we had to analyze based on the documentation submitted.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you really spend the time elaborating on each of those questions that are asked.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is probably time consuming at the beginning to answer all these essay questions, but it automatically, once you do it once, they just ask you to update it. So it will automatically be in there every semester. You want to go back and just, if you want to tweak things, keep it current. But Dr. Ferguson had a good point. Make sure you take the time to really fill out those applications because, with the nutrition and dietetics scholarship, we didn't have a ton of students to have to decide who to fund and who not to. And we, as Dr. Ferguson noted, there were some students that we knew had all of this experience that wasn't in the application. We have to go based on the application because it's anonymous too, so we knew after the fact, but the students are ranked just based on what is on there, not on who the student is. So make sure you fill those out. To also piggyback on what Blakely and Dr. Ferguson said, we have funding available to support student travel. So traveling is expensive, okay? And Dr. Pearson mentioned American Society for Nutrition, that's in Boston this year. So you're talking about airfare and lodging and food and then registration for the conference. So it's a pretty penny to be able to go to a conference. But as Dr. Pearson and Blakely noted, we have multiple places that we can try to pull from in order to get as much funding as possible. So if you're affiliated with the Honors College, they'll provide $500. Nutrition Student Network has some funding that they can provide. One of my students received $400 from them that would help offset travel costs. We also have the Dr. Missy Cody travel funds, which are available to cover or to help support student travel. So we have some travel funds available. This is actually a picture of one of our undergraduate students who was presenting his work in Orlando at the American Diabetes Association meeting, and he received funding from the Honors College and the NSN and Dr. Missy Cody travel funds that was able to really cover the majority of his travel. And so we have 2 application deadlines for using the Missy Cody travel funds, the Dr. Missy Cody travel funds, and there's one in the fall and one in the spring. And so I encourage you to think about, if you want to attend a conference, which one, are you interested in? For example, American Society for Nutrition is in July, American Diabetes Association is in June. FNC, the Food and Nutrition Conference and Expo, is usually in October. So there's, if that's October, in August, you better be looking for this application for funding. So start thinking about those. So the deadlines are the Friday after Labor Day in the fall and the Friday after Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the spring. Okay. I'm gonna kind of switch gears now and talk about what are some career options for you after you graduate. Some of you know you want to go to grad school, but for those that just say, I'm ready to start working after graduation, I was thinking about, what careers do I list on here? And because there's so many that I could choose from, but I decided actually just to include the careers that our recent alumni are holding right now. So what are our recent graduates doing? To just kind of blanket it, really, with a nutrition major or nutrition degree, you're eligible for any job or career that doesn't, in the nutrition, health, or wellness field, that doesn't require a specific credential. So that doesn't require the registered dietitian credential, then you would be eligible for that job. So we've had our graduates, and again, these are just recent graduates, working as nutritionists. For example, a lot of nutritionist positions with the government don't require that registered dietitian credential. So our graduates are working as nutritionists at WIC, for example, the Women, Infants, and Children program. Many of our graduates end up working at CHOA, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, as clinical nutrition technicians or human milk technicians. Allison Hare is a graduate of our nutrition undergraduate program. She was a nutrition technician at CHOA for many years before coming back to the coordinated program and then ultimately becoming a dietitian now at CHOA. We have employees working in employee wellness, in early childhood education, or we have graduates working in employee wellness and early childhood education. In the food and beverage industry, think Coca-Cola, which is around here, Chick-fil-A. There's actually a lot of opportunity in the food and beverage industry around us. And entrepreneurship. So Michaela Wright is a recent graduate, and she started her own company and was recently profiled in Shout Out Atlanta magazine. She graduated, I think, in 2021. And then we have now with the health coaching certificate, many of our graduates, as Jessica pointed out, have started working as health coaches. So this is just one of our graduates, Dandy Wardy, graduated in 2022 and established his health coaching program, and he works alongside physicians to help make sure, or to help implement their recommendations with the patient, because a lot of times physicians are able to, give, this is what you need to be doing, and Dandy comes in and works with the patients to work on implementation of the prescription. So there's many, many different opportunities. So it's really just go and find what you're interested in. And as long as there's not that specific registered dietitian credential, there's opportunities there. There's a lot of opportunities in school nutrition, which has kind of a more appealing schedule for some people. And then for those of you that know you want to go on to graduate school or professional school, there are a lot of opportunities there, especially, as I mentioned, for those students who chose nutrition science concentration, just because a lot of those higher level sciences, the principles of chemistry 1 and 2 and organic, are required for graduate programs, depending on which ones you're going into. So if you're going more of a, you know, like a hard science route, a chemistry, biochemistry, medical school, they'll require those, but they may be more flexible if you're going into public health or different fields like that. So again, I kind of picked programs here that our graduates have actually gone on to do or gone on to apply for. I recently wrote a letter for someone applying to osteopathic medical school. I think she's a great candidate for that. But so after graduation, you could go on and get your master's in nutrition. We've had our students go on to master's in public health. Again, there are a lot of different options with master's programs. Same thing with doctoral programs. We'll have Dr. Harrison come back and tell us a little bit about the doctoral programs that we have here that some of our graduates have gone into. You're eligible again for medical school, osteopathic medical school. The important thing though is, wrong way. Remember that you have 15 credit hours of electives that you have to take electives in the program. If you know you want to go to medical school and they require, you know, biochemistry, take that now while you're in undergrad. So that way, when you graduate, you already have all the prereqs and you don't need to go back later. Or like I said earlier, physical therapy school requires physics. Take those now and use them as your elective hours. So that way, when you graduate, you're ready to move on into that program. So you're eligible to move into these different types of programs. And oftentimes nutrition is viewed as like a really strong major for medical school because it's different than what, you know, they usually see in applications. We recently had a student accepted into the graduate respiratory therapy program here at Georgia State. We have students that are in physical therapy school, several students that recently graduated that are in PA school for physician assistant. And we have a lot of students that end up staying here with us and moving into the coordinated program, which is preparing students to become registered dietitians. So starting in 2024, in order to take the exam to become a registered dietitian, you have to have a graduate degree. So you can't, there's no longer going to be this bachelor's to dietetic internship to RD pathway. You have to have a master's degree. And the good thing about our coordinated program is that you get all the coursework to get the master's degree. It's a Master of Science in Health Sciences with a concentration in nutrition. And at the same time, you're doing all of your internship component. We call it supervised practice. That's where you're doing all your rotations. And so at the end of this program, which full-time is 2 years, part-time is 3 or 4 years. At the end of this two-year program or longer, you have the master's degree and all the supervised practice hours to sit for the exam to become a registered dietitian. We have a really high pass rate on that exam, higher than the national average. So because so many of our graduates end up going into the coordinated program, I've asked one of our alumni from our undergraduate program, who is a current student in the coordinated program, to tell us a little bit more about the coordinated program, what it's like being a student in the coordinated program. So Arnasha Heda, please come and share your wisdom with us.
Hey guys, like Dr. Wanders mentioned, I'm currently in the coordinated program, and I'm in the part-time track. So I'm starting my 3rd year, so my final year. Like you said, that there's a 3-year pathway and a 4-year pathway that you could talk to with your advisor about. But I'm currently doing that. I'm also a graduate teaching assistant for culinary medicine and wellness. So if you guys do take that class this upcoming semester, you might see me in it. But yeah, getting into it. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about what the point of view, like my point of view is as a CP student. There's 3 major things that go on in my life: my personal life, my rotations, and my classwork. So between being in classes and rotations, even though I'm in the part-time, there's still a lot of commitment. It does take up majority of my day. I need to learn to balance. I really needed to learn to balance that in the beginning. So classes in the beginning of the program, most of them are in person. Classes that you're familiar with, micronutrients, macronutrients, those are going to be in-person classes. Then as you transition to the second half of the program, most of them do come online. Some of them may be in person, some of them, most of them are online. And as you're doing that in the beginning, your rotation coursework is a bit lighter. So helps with those in-person classes. You're taking easier rotations and harder classes. That transition changes in the end, or the second half, you're going to be doing harder rotations such as your clinical work, your outpatient stuff, more hands-on rotations, and you're going to be doing more online-based classes, taking that into account. And then just finding time and just organizing is very important. Using different planners is something that has helped me. Like I have it written down on a paper, and then I also have it on my phone so I can keep track. Assignments, due dates, and rotations are basically mini work interviews, if you think of it that way. You're going into a very professional setting. You're coming in, yes, as a student, but you're acting as in a professional capacity. So you want to take into account that you're also going to be representing GSU, and you're also going to be representing yourself, what you've learned so far, how you behave in that professional setting. It's very crucial. So treat it as if it's like a little interview and you're applying for a job and you're taking a moment to step into the career. And there's so many different types of rotations that'll give you a good idea of what type of field you want to go into. Being at GSU, since we are a very community urban health based program, a lot of our rotations revolve around that, but we also have, so sorry about that. But if anyone has Apple Watch, they know the pain. But also taking into consideration clinical work, and maybe if you don't know what you exactly want to go into when you're starting the program, these rotations really help hone it down. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and my personal journey through that in the end. So what is the coordinator program like? So full-time and part-time options. The full-time is 6 semesters. This is going to be more targeted for the non-DPD verified schools. So we're looking at doing the coursework for the master's and the internship like options that Dr. Wanders mentioned. The supervised practice is what we call it. So full-time ranges from like about 6 semesters, and you'll start in fall, like a regular semester in August. In August, and then you'll end in a summer. So you'll end in July. For the part-time option, it could be 3 years, it could be 4 years. It depends how fast-paced you want to be, and that's something that you talk to your advisor about. I talked in the beginning with Kate. If you guys should know Kate, and then also Jessica Todd, who is now my current advisor, and just discussing with her that, hey, this is what I want to do. Is this a possibility that we can make it happen? And they're going to lay out your coursework for you, just like how Dr. Wanders laid out the undergraduate coursework. So you're going to know what classes you take. Your classes have these safe seats for you in your classes, and you don't really have to compete to like get in the class. So 6 to 10 semesters. It could be more than 10 semesters. I think it could go up to 11, but you're going to be wrapping up in 11 semesters. You get 1,000 hours of supervised practice in an urban health-based setting. That includes, there's Atlanta, there you have like outreaches that are mandatory, in which some of them are like Decatur Farmers Market. You get to pick. There's, and we send out emails as graduate students. You get to be in a leadership position as a liaison. You deal with these outreach programs, and you communicate with the rest of the students that, hey, these are the availability outreach options, which you do, which are just various community-based options. Then you're also doing rotations in WIC, women, infant, and children. You're doing a corporate wellness rotation. You're doing clinical, in which you do acute care and critical care. And then you get to pick an outpatient rotation that you'd like to do, something that you'd like to be a little bit more focused in. There's oncology, there's pediatrics, there's renal, so many various options. But a bulk of your rotations are going to be urban health community-based rotations as well. So you're going to be in a food pantry, like either the Panthers Pantry, and we've also associated with the Jewish Family and Career Services. So they have a Jewish pantry that we go to and we volunteer at. So just various food and security options as well. You experience various roles that a dietitian can play in the healthcare sector. So not only are you going to know what those hospital-like roles that you can play are that we tend to fantasize about becoming like a dietitian healthcare worker, but you also get to experience those community-based roles. One of the biggest things that I've started to draw myself to is corporate wellness. I enjoyed that setting as a rotation, and I'm considering it as a possible career option. So getting a chance to put your toe in or dip your toe into the water in various different opportunities and options. It's an application of your ongoing knowledge in clinical and public health settings. So you get to apply what you're learning in the class as you're learning it in your rotations. It's not that you take the coursework over a semester and then the next semester you're doing all rotations. It's not like that. You're applying what you're learning in a very everyday daily setting. What you're learning in counseling is applied in a counseling class is applied at a rotation where you're counseling clients or patients, or you're shadowing someone who is counseling, so you get to pick up additional knowledge in that aspect, as well as applying. One of the biggest things is MNT. You take your like a medical nutrition therapy class, and then you get to apply it in the clinical setting. It depends on when you get your, like when it's scheduled for you, but you get to apply it right away, so you're not like missing out on that information. You're currently practicing it as well. Being a part of a cohort is like a second family. I'm in a part-time cohort, and it's just me and one other person. The other part-time cohorts are much bigger. The average the full-time cohort is, I want to say like 11 to 10 students big. So they've also included us in that. So we're all like one big family. We have group chats, we have communications. We're in most of the same classes together. We do like meetings outside of school where there's social events. So just because we all know the burden of being a student, so we can share with each other. So that's something that's very important. Some of the challenges, not challenges per se, but something that you need to consider is that you need to maintain a 3-point GPA average in the school, and then you can only get 1 C in the program. So those are something to consider. So academically, you have to be very present. You have to put in the hours into taking your coursework and studying outside of your classes as well. And there's a really big support structure. You have your like professors that you know of, you have your advisors, and then there's also a mentor and mentee program in the coordinated program. You get to be a mentee your first semester, and you can always reach out to who your mentor is in the second semester. And then when you're in your second year, you yourself get to be a mentor to the new incoming students. So you're getting a bit of both of that role. Okay, I went to GSU as an undergrad in the nutrition science concentration. Before that, I went to culinary school, so I have a culinary background, and I knew I wanted to do something a little bit more in nutrition, which is why I came to Georgia State for that program. One of the perks of going to Georgia State as an undergraduate and then applying to the grad program and being in the grad program, I have stronger ties to the school. Most of the professors knew me when I was attending their classes, personally and as well as academically. They're familiar with you, you're familiar with their teaching style, so it's not very hard to learn and adapt to a new professor. Familiar with your faculty, and then you also have a competitive advantage when you're applying to the program. These professors know you, they're reading your application, they know what you're like when they're deciding your fate for the next 2 years of being in the program or not being in the program. So you also have, you develop that mentor-mentee. I knew a lot of the undergraduates as well before graduating. I knew Blakely before I was even in the master's program. The current cohort that started last fall, I knew most of them as well. And it was easier for me to develop a mentor-mentee relationship with them. And I knew the class that was there before me because they were doing their undergraduate when I was doing my undergraduate. So it was very helpful to also know that. You know the Atlanta community, you're in the same area, you know what urban outreaches we do through NSN and different volunteering opportunities through Georgia State, and you're familiar with them, and you're going and doing a lot of rotations for them. One of our rotations is the Grady Jesse Hill Market. So you're going to go experience that. Things like that, being a part of the undergraduate program helped me in the graduate program. Now this is something that it's a really nice perk. You get 2 exemptions as a graduate student if you went here for your undergraduate. You do have to have A's in those classes in order to be able to exempt those classes, but not having to take those classes again necessarily was somewhat helpful financially and mental health wise, because I felt like I was strong enough in those classes in the undergraduate program that I didn't need to take them over in the graduate program. However, there are some classes that I was like, I really want to take this class again, which was micronutrients. And I took it with both the professors. I took it in my undergraduate year with Dr. Wanders, and then I took it in my graduate year with Dr. Ferrison. So like, that was a really big thing I learned from her teaching style and Dr. Ferrison's teaching style. So that was something that was very like impactful for me. And then you're also being a support structure for all the people that are coming into GSU. They're going to rely on you finding classes as well as like what's around, how are these communities like, how are those rotations like, and just being able to talk to them. Like I said, the cohort is a big family, so being a part and provide like helping out in that family. All right, and then opportunities after graduation. So this is where something you get to personalize your ideas come in through. You get to pick a concentration option. This can be a master's project. It can be a thesis. Another thing that it could be is going to be additional coursework. And the options in the additional coursework are geriatrics, pediatrics, public health, and sports nutrition. And those are just, if that's a concentration that you want to choose to do, you can go ahead and declare that to your advisor and you take additional coursework for that. I personally am doing pediatrics since that is what I was most interested in the beginning of the program. That is what I declared, and those are the classes that I'm taking. I know people who are doing sports nutrition. I'm not sure. I think there's one student in the cohort that did public health. I'm not sure about geriatrics. Then lastly, comprehensive exam. That is an option that you can do as well. It is a collection of different, not test material exactly. I know it varies. I've heard that it's been like multiple professors will give you a sort of assignment or a paper to write or an essay or a prompt that you will have to complete and turn in. And you do this for multiple different professors. That's a comprehensive exam that you could take. I heard that it prepares you a little bit better for the RD exam at the end of the master's coordinated program. Personally, I'm looking at doing pediatric private practice or corporate health and corporate wellness. Those are the 2 options that have spoken to me so far in my journey as a master's student. That's what I have like as career options. They're on the opposite spectrums in the dietetics world. Pediatric more towards clinical side, but more in the private practice sector, or corporate wellness, in which I would probably pursue to get a health coaching certificate as to pursue that in my career. I have linked this one website. I believe you can also Google it through All Access Dietetics. The 75 Dietitian Dream Jobs. It's a really good resource. It gives you an idea of all the opportunities that you have completing this program as an undergrad. I think there's a few undergrad options, and then there's mostly they relate to the RD options. So after you've done your master's and sat and gotten your licensure and your RD title. But it gives you a good idea of what opportunities there are, and it also talks a little bit about what the average salary looks like. So I think that was something that really helped me to like understand and grasp around what future career options I had. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be here later. That's all.
Thank you, Arnasha.
Yeah, so that was a great explanation of the coordinated program. Just to elaborate a little bit on one thing, so Arnasha mentioned she's a GTA, so a lot of the students in the coordinated program end up with assistantships that are either you're serving as a graduate teaching assistant, a graduate research assistant, or helping with Typhon, which is a system that's used in the coordinated program, or helping with the Panthers Pantry, or working with Panther Dining. There's a lot of different opportunities for assistantships, which usually come with a half or full tuition waiver and a small stipend, not something you can live on, but the tuition waiver is the main attraction of the assistantship. And then I did see a question pop up while Arnasha was talking, and the question was, can you go into the coordinated program if you're in nutrition and wellness, if your concentration is nutrition and wellness? The coordinated program accepts students with any degree. Your major could be criminal justice and you could get into the coordinated program as long as you have the prerequisites. So the reason we recommend the nutrition science concentration for students interested in the coordinated program is because the coordinated program requires principles of chemistry 1 and 2 and organic chemistry, which if you chose nutrition and wellness, you probably weren't advised to take those courses. So if you're in nutrition and wellness and you've already completed your sciences, you'll have to probably go back and take principles of chemistry 1 and 2 and organic chemistry because they are required for the coordinated program. I see questions popping up, but you, Nicole, feel free to stop me if there's questions. Yeah.
So related to that, the CPE program, can we do CPE courses during the summer?
Yes, so the coordinated program is all semesters, so you don't stop during the summer. Like the undergraduate program, we offer some elective courses, but we don't require students to be here over the summer. The coordinated program is every semester. Okay, so I just wanted to ask Dr. Farrison to come back up again just to tell you a little bit about our doctoral program. So Dr. Farrison is the director of the PhD in chemistry with a concentration in nutritional sciences. And she's also the liaison for the PhD in health sciences with a concentration in nutrition. And we've had our graduates from the undergraduate program move into that PhD in chemistry with a concentration in nutritional sciences. And the PhD in health science is a fairly new program. Professor White, I almost called her Dr. White. Professor White is in that PhD in health sciences with a concentration in nutrition right now on top of everything else she's doing. Pretty soon she'll be Dr. White. But it's a fairly new program, so we haven't had any of our graduates go in there yet, but hopefully soon. So Dr. Farrison, would you mind coming telling us a little bit about our doctoral program?
I'll try to go quickly because I know we are getting closer here on time. So the PhD program with concentration in nutritional sciences is also a fairly new program. It started in the fall of 2017. And it's in Georgia, the board thought that we already had enough PhD programs in nutrition. So that was a way around and how we were able to start this program. And as you can see for the courses, I'm not going to go over all of them, but we have, nutrition as well as chemistry specific courses. And those chemistry specific courses are very important and related to nutrition. And if you come from a nutrition background, you're already familiar with some of that. If you took macro, micro, organic chemistry. So we have biochem, enzymology, which goes a little more in depth into the enzymes, then protein structure, nucleic acid structure, and those are main master courses. So then we have nutrition specific ones. You have elective and research courses. Normally the elective is going to be, where we're trying to tailor the program to you. So for example, on the side, we have our 4 students. So Rami is the second picture there. He was our first student. He started in fall of 2017 and he graduated now. As well as Maureen, which was our second student, followed by Hannah and Jessica. So Hannah has a Brains and Behavior Fellowship, and she's interested in neuroscience. So what we did, we actually, she worked with her mentor and the committee members to get, those elective courses to be focusing on neuroscience. So she uses those, hours for that. and she's doing her research on nutrition interventions and neuroscience. Rami, he was interested in cardiovascular. Maureen was also a cardiopulmonary. So Jessica is kind of interested in the relationship between cardiovascular and gut. So we kind of tailor the courses, the electives for them. And they start with the research early on. So most for the first 2 years, you're going to be doing your coursework. And then once you get to the end of your coursework, at the end of the second year or first semester of your third year is where you do your preliminary examination. Your preliminary examination or the qualifying exam is could be writing a review paper, comprehensive exam, or you can do research proposal, and that's normally what the students go to because they want to get that experience and feedback so they can actually submit a proposal, a training grant proposal to an agency. And so far, all the three of the students, Rami, Jessica, and Maureen, they have been awarded pre-doctoral fellowships from the USDA, NIFA, which gives them a stipend plus money for their projects. So it's been good so far, and they have very, very productive. They can, scholarships and papers and presentations. And both of them were able to line up jobs. Rami got a postdoctoral fellowship also from USDA, and he's going to be working with a professor at IBMS, and Maureen is going to be working with industry. So actually, there's several paths for you. It's just not academia. PhD program is not just for people that want to go into academia and teach, but also if you want to go work with industry, that would be a good option as well. And the PhD in health sciences, like Dr. Wonder said, it's a new program. It started a year ago, right? So last fall. So we're finishing up our first year this summer with some classes. So far, the cohort has 4 students technically and 2 students that are taking classes but that haven't officially applied yet, but they will because we have 5 different concentrations. Nutrition, health informatics, it's about to be one of the concentrations, but also respiratory therapy. There's one concentration physical therapy as well and occupational therapy. So we have 2 students in nutrition and probably be accepting a couple more that's going to be starting soon. So this one, classes are going to be, a lot of the focus is going to be to prepare professionals for, health science jobs, like government jobs and teaching also at the university. So there's a lot of teaching embedded in here, fundamentals of teaching. There's also health science courses and statistical courses. There is also a lot of those. So the focus is slightly different, but the nutrition concentration courses would be similar between the 2 PhD programs. But if you're trying to do bench research, I would say the chemistry PhD with concentration in nutrition would be better for you. But if you're trying to go into government jobs and public health or education, perhaps this will be a better fit for you. So we have assistantships available. They're not guaranteed, but they come through helping teaching some courses or some research assistantships. And a lot of times, if the faculty that you are working with has funding money, they, from research grants, they can also pay for you to do research only. And that's where you don't have to do any teaching to supplement, to have an assistantship on top of everything else you do. But that's pretty doable. The students actually started like that because I started at the same time as Rami. And he, I didn't have funding at that time, but he was 1 year doing some teaching until I got funding, and then he was able to switch to my funding until he got his own funding, and then he was able to switch to his. So there's a lot of opportunities. So if you're interested, especially if you do research during the undergraduate, that's a great way. If you have that, oh, this may be for me, but you're not sure, start, getting acquainted with it during your undergraduate. That is going to give a really good idea if, should I go for a master's or a PhD? And in fact, to go to apply to our PhD program, you don't need to have a master's. And that was the case with Hannah, which the previous, the top one, she graduated from our bachelor's program and went straight into the PhD program. Okay, so you do not need to do that. But if you want to go and do a master's or do a master's with us and then switch to the PhD, that's possible as well. It's whatever route you think is best for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've heard a little bit about our graduate programs that we have here in case you're interested in sticking with Georgia State and going on to grad school. I just will briefly think this is my last slide. Yeah, pretty much. These are the faculty members in the Department of Nutrition. I will just briefly mention our research interests in case it's something you're interested in following up on as undergraduate research. So Dr. Mo, Dr. Tharrison, Dr. G, and myself, we're more of what you would consider the basic science folks. So we're the ones doing the bench work with the cells and the animal models. And Dr. Mo and Dr. G have an interest in lung disease. Dr. Tharrison has many interests, mostly cardiovascular focus, and then as they relate to other parts of the body, like the bone and the gut, and the lung, and so forth. My interests are more on obesity-related conditions. I've kind of migrated somehow into the brain, and that's what we're doing now. And then Dr. Nucci, she does a lot with pediatric intestinal issues and type 1 diabetes. Dr. Mayfield is more of our community nutrition focus, working with custodial grandparents and their access to food in and around the Atlanta area. Dr. Shake is kind of our more global public health person. Professor White and Professor Wiley have some funding. They're looking at indirect calorimetry to assess energy needs, and they work over at Grady Hospital, so in patients over there. And Jessica, Todd, and Molly have ongoing interest in scholarship of teaching and learning and different things related to that. And then we have Nicole, who is our administrative specialist extraordinaire. If you email nutrition@gsu.edu, she'll be the first person to see those emails. So any questions that you send to our general email will go to Nicole, and she's an excellent resource as well. So in addition to Nicole, who can be reached at nutrition@gsu.edu, these are some additional people that you may want to contact. So Jessica is the new undergraduate program director. So if you have questions related to anything with the program, she would be probably the good first line of contact. And then she may direct you on to somebody else depending on your question. Ravenna Brown is the academic advisor for nutrition in the Lewis College. So once you're in the program, you've submitted that application that we talked about, your advising will come from Professor White. However, if you have specific questions about registration or anything like that, Ravenna is a good point of contact. So feel free to reach out to her as well. And then, anything that anybody else can't answer, you can feel free to email me, and I'll see if I can help you figure out what you're looking for. So if there are any questions that we haven't already answered, I'll be happy to try to answer those now. Were there any in the chat?
This question from Madeline. She asks, going into the food and beverage, I work at Chick-fil-A. What can I do with that exactly?
Okay, that's a great question. So the question is about what can you do with a nutrition major in the food and beverage industry? So one thing that I actually do when I teach senior seminar is I bring back graduates from our program to talk about what they're doing in their jobs. And we always have people come and speak to us from Coca-Cola. So there's a lot that they do in Coca-Cola with regards to what can go on a label. So can you say this is heart healthy? It has to meet certain criteria. Can you say that this is going to lower cholesterol? So they do a lot of scientific and regulatory affairs type of thing. We've also had students that did internships at food companies around here with product development. So refining, this was a tortilla company actually, but working on recipes to improve food quality. With Chick-fil-A, I do a little bit of work with Chick-fil-A, and there's a big interest in seeing what's the next thing on the horizon? How are we going to meet the consumer, 10 years from now? What are we going to be doing? And what's important to the consumer? And so this is not specific to Chick-fil-A, but any food and beverage industry, looking at there's like certain ingredients that may be no, and you can do recipe development to try to get rid of those ingredients, or working with the consumer to try to figure out what they want and figuring out how the food and beverage company can meet them where they are. So there's a lot of different opportunities in the food and beverage industry, depending on if you're more interested in the food side or the nutrition side. Any other questions?
I have a question. I'm trying to figure out how that's so much in my head. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate what I want to gain. So I'm undergrad, and I'm wondering, I guess we don't have any sort of mentorship program to kind of like, or who I go to for questions, because I feel very disconnected. I've been working in nutrition in different aspects for quite some time, so I've made the decision to say, hey, let me go back to school. And when I did that, it was during COVID, and it was very hard to really understand what I needed, because I just couldn't really get direct answers. So I'm just wondering, in terms of community and who I can go to ask questions as I go along the way. What I feel like I'm kind of doing is I'm working, doing things in nutrition, but I don't have credentials. And sometimes I feel like, okay, well, let me just give up on these classes because they're so exhausting. So I just, just wondering, is there a community or someone we can go to in terms of asking these questions so that I have a better path?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. And actually, you're not the only student that has felt that way. That's something I've learned with these exit interviews that I do with the graduating class. And that's partially the reason we're doing this today. It's the first time we've ever had an undergraduate open house / orientation. Is because for your first 2 years, you're basically, you probably don't have another nutrition student in any of your classes. Your history and science and English and math, and you don't know anything about the program. So I have been trying to reach out to students earlier. Jessica White will be a great resource for you as the undergraduate program director. So any questions, go to her first. The other thing is joining the Nutrition Student Network. Were you here when Blakely was giving her talk?
No.
Okay, so rewatch this when we get it posted on the website. I'll send it out to the students. But the Nutrition Student Network is a chartered or registered student organization for the department. And that is a great place to meet other, let's see, this was hers, to meet other students in nutrition. So they have 4 meetings every semester, so 8 meetings total, in addition to, independent of any additional things they want to do, if any type of social events or things like that. But they invite speakers. So if you get involved there, your voice could be heard as far as, say you have a particular interest in culinary medicine, you want to hear from a dietitian working in that area, they could invite a speaker in that field. And it's a great way to make connections with, people that are working in that area already. They have tons of different volunteer activities as well, outreach events. This was one that Blakely highlighted, where they had an event where they had a food drive for the Panthers Pantry food and hygiene product drive. So the Nutrition Student Network, I think, is a great place to start to get involved and meet other students. And one thing that I mentioned was that, generally attendance is not huge. If you look on Panther Involvement Network, it says there's like 270 members. We probably need to clean up the roster a little bit, but they're generally kind of small meetings. And actually, one thing that we didn't mention that's new this semester is we have an interest group within the Nutrition Student Network called DEI Dietetics that will also be holding meetings in addition to the regular NSN meetings, so that if you have a specific interest in that, they're going to invite speakers and have workshops specifically related to DEI issues within nutrition and dietetics. Blakely had a nice little thing here of how to join. So go to the Panther Involvement Network, which is, you can find any student organization within the department there. So even if you Google or search nutrition, other ones will pop up. Like there's another group called Body Talk and some others. but you'll see Nutrition Student Network pop up there, and you just click join. There are no membership dues. You'll be accepted, and then you'll start receiving emails. They don't meet over the summer, so you won't hear from them probably until fall. There's volunteer opportunities through there and so forth. Somebody had their hand up in the chat.
Hi, my name is Patricia Lawrence. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So I was a transfer student when I first started, and I really didn't know, like, I just knew nutrition major. That's what I wanted to focus in, but I didn't know or understand the concentrations until a little bit later after I had already took the survey of chemistry, which I know that's more so towards the nutrition wellness concentration and not the nutrition science. But the verbiage to me, it seems, being that I was a transfer student, it seemed like the verbiage was a little confusing. So I was wondering, like, whether it be through our advisors or whatever, is there a missing link so that it can be more clear? And so basically, I don't want nobody to have to go through what I had to go through, which is having to take the principle of chemistry 1 and 2, as opposed to when I had already took survey of chemistry 1 and 2, because I was under the impression that it didn't matter. And the reason why I was under the impression is because it says recommended, as opposed to if you know you want to be a nutrition science major or concentrate in nutrition science, then you need to take principles of chemistry.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So the catalog is written very confusingly. So I made a Word document that I provided to all the university advisement that lays this out specifically. So the university requirements is that we say recommended because in the first 2 years, we can't require different sciences. But the reason that, we have those sciences in there for the nutrition science students is because we know that this percentage of students want to go into the coordinated program, and you have to take principles of chemistry 1 and 2. So you can major in nutrition and wellness or nutrition science and not have to take those courses, but you won't be able to get into
coordinated program.
coordinated program.
Okay, I understand now. That makes so much more sense now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Any others?
Lily asks, who could I contact for student opportunities for travel? Where could I get more information?
Okay, so you can, for travel opportunities, I would say your first point of contact would be Jessica White as the undergraduate program director, but she'll probably tell you that she'll probably tell you that the calls for applications for funding from the department will come out in the beginning of fall and the beginning of spring. And that's for those Dr. Missy Cody travel funds, where the applications are due the Friday after Labor Day in the fall and the Friday after Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the spring. Other than that, the funding opportunities that we know of that we can share with you are the ones related to the Honors College. If you're an honors student, there's some funding through CASA. What's the acronym for that, Dr. Pearson? Center for Alumni Advancement of something, alumni, I can't remember. CASA, do you know what?
Of advancement for students and alumni.
Center for Advancement of Students and Alumni. Okay, there's some funding available through that resource, which is through the university. And then the Nutrition Student Network has funding. So we kind of like piecemeal trying to get funding for our students through those different programs. The other thing is through the scholarships. So the Nutrition and Dietetics Scholarship, for example, if your tuition is all paid up, that scholarship just goes into your account and you can use it for whatever you want. It's just money in the bank for you. So again, that's going through the GSU Academic Works and keeping your applications up to date. Make sure you go in the beginning of fall and beginning of spring, submit the Georgia State University general application and the Lewis College application, and you'll be automatically matched to any scholarships that you're eligible for. Other questions? Yes.
Cindy asks, is there a concentration option for outpatient or clinical dietitians in the community?
Okay, so this question's about the coordinated program and whether you can have a concentration in clinical or outpatient. So all students are required to do certain clinical rotations in the coordinated program. You'll rotate with Jessica at Grady in critical care and Kate over at Grady in acute care. And then you have different outpatient experiences as well. And are they still enrichment hours?
Yes.
Okay, they're still enrichment hours. I know they cut some hours, but so there's enrichment hours where you get to pick what you want to concentrate in. So sometimes the students come up with ideas that we've never even had before. And Jessica Todd, who's the director of the coordinated program, works to find preceptors in those areas. Like I think we had a student over at the Shepherd Center who had an interest in that. And if you're interested in integrative and functional nutrition, I know Jessica's worked to find preceptors in that area. So there's certain areas that if you think you have an interest, you'll have the opportunity to rotate in those areas if Jessica can establish a relationship there. Alrighty, well, wow, 12 o'clock on the dot. That's pretty good. So thank you guys for attending in person and online. I'm gonna try to make this recording available so that way you all have it. And if you think of anything else, feel free to reach out to Jessica or myself. Yeah, thank you so much.
Question about the reporting.
Yeah.
You said it would be sent out an email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna post it on the website, but I'll also just send it out to the undergraduate students. So as long as you're listed as a nutrition major, you should get
Okay,
a
okay.
copy because I have a list.
This is super helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad. I really hope that it addresses some of those shortcomings that we noticed in our exit interview, so. And now at least you know that you have someone that you can go to with your questions.
Signing up now.
Yeah. Great, thank you. What was your name?
My name is Miriam.
Mary. Okay. Nice to meet you.
But I am,
Was that helpful?
You probably are. So I don't know exactly where I was practically at the end of next year, but I still think I've got some priorities. If I can just speak up, so that how it should be.
Yeah.
Majority.
Yeah. Yeah.
Down now, sort of look at it online, if you wanna walk over with me, too. But, walk over to my office. How well? Waiting for Dr. Wong.
So I don't know if I'll do it. I thought I might.
Yeah, I do.
I know. So I don't know. Starting in the fall, right?
It's every time something is in.
Yeah.
I'm going.
this, I mean, you're like, search and I graduate.
You know.
The required.
And I also made lunchtime.
We recommend.
So I gotta get, I'm signing it.
So we do try.
So I needed to pour it.
It's just.
And also.
We try to schedule it where.
Everything on
All day, every.
Yes.
Then you have to come to campus every day for one, but yes.
Yes.
I will focus.
working on schedule around it, so. Okay, cool.
Very good.
We don't need that?
Yeah, they just need out of the show.
Oh.
They're rolling around on the floor, inching themselves like insanely crazy people, and so they just do that. You have a try.
Yeah.
And they, I just, you're in. What it's called, like, yeah, that's my next to world.
What's it?
Yes.
Still, it's my like, it's just me, it's fine. They really show the truth. I remember in your left. Did I drop the recording?
Hello.
Yeah. So,